Well, we're rolling and we're very excited today. This is back by popular demand. We had Peter Thomas, the great Peter Thomas, on our show 2 Fridays ago, and I just got dozens of texts and emails about, let me hear more from this guy. You know, Peter, he developed the Four Seasons up in Scottsdale, but not only that, he was the founder of Century 21 Canada, where he did $8 billion of sales and employed 8,000 people. Here today, he's doing Dogtopia. He has urban communities. He's doing billions of dollars of deals in various sectors of real estate and business. And I just can't thank you enough, Peter, for agreeing to come back and talk to us. You've been through some ups and you've been through some downs. And I just thought, can we throw it open? And I know this is just a half an hour of Peter's wisdom, but can you give it to us straight? Give it something to look at. And then I would say if anybody during Peter's talk has questions, please send them to my chat and I'll try to answer. He'll try to get through a couple of them at the very end. And hopefully we can persuade Peter to come back. So we've got like 450 people on the Zoom today, Peter. So tell us something good.
Well, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Jordan, for that introduction. And thanks for having me on your program today, Jordan. It's I really am excited and pleased to be here. And a big hello to all you guys out there online. Wow, we got several countries participating and hundreds of people. So I didn't realize my family was that large. Wow. So let's begin with a quote I've had so long in my mind, and it's already given me strength. Charles Darwin, you know, the British naturalist and biologist, in 1892 quoted, he said, "It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent that survives. It's the one that is most adaptable to change." You know, when I said that a few times, I'd like you to look it up, Google up Charles Darwin, and you said it to yourself, you must learn to have adaptability to change. You know, the weeds, the trees break with resistance and they bend with the wind, and you live longer if you do that. So you must recognize that. Now, since we've started, like we're in a kind of a bit of a doldrum right now. We've never had this kind of a, you know, we all feel this is a new situation and we haven't been involved in anything like this. I haven't in my 80 years of living or 50 years in business, I've never seen anything like we've got right now. So I started thinking, I'm going to talk with all you people today. I thought, well, what message can I give you? Positive. How do you say positive in a downturn? Things like that. Well, a little research showed me that there's been 47 recessions since they started measuring them in 1796. 47 of them. Usually, after a recession, the upturn is dramatic. It goes from 30 to 40 to 50%. It just goes right up like that. Well, the definition of recession is a significant decline in the economic activity spread across the economy that lasts for 2 quarters. So there's been 47 of those. Well, I get a bit of sense out of that. If we've lived through 47 of them and figured out 47 of them, my brain tells me we're going to make it through this one. We just don't know when. So that gives me a lot of comfort knowing that we are going to get through this. Now, when will it be? And that will be the guess. And I think it's going to be fairly soon, to be honest with you. But this time is going to be full of opportunities on that when for the optimistic people and the entrepreneurs. If they're open-minded, you think reset, you think pivot, you think plan B. If there ever was a time to have a plan B, it's now. Now recognize and accept that it's a new world with new tools, new economics, and new ways to get things done. Quicker, less expensive, and better. New companies, new technologies. You know, I thought I'd just deal a little history again, a little research. Some companies you may recognize that all started during one of those 47 recessions. One was General Electric. It started in 1882, and its 2019 revenue was $95 billion. IBM started in 1896, $77 billion last year's revenue. General Motors, 1908, revenue, $137 billion. Walt Disney Productions started in 1929. You know, the huge, worst recession I can ever think of. Revenue, $69 billion. And Microsoft started in 1975, $125 billion. So just amazing. Now what's happened, that's historic. Now how about now? What about the last recession, 2008? Well, let's look at that. What started? Uber, valued today, $8 billion, a whole new area of driverless cars. Driver cars, now they're going to driverless now. Airbnb, valued at $38 billion. WhatsApp, Facebook purchased it for $19 billion in 2014. Instagram started in 2010. Facebook bought them for $1 billion in 2012. Whoever started that company, Instagram, had it for 2 years and made $1 billion. Slack, it's an organizational tool, now valued at $16 billion. Square, it's a merchant mobile payment system, now it's valued at $23 billion. So that's the kind of things that happen after recessions. So just around the corner now, what have we got? That was 2008. Well, let's take a look just around this corner right now, 2020, 2021, 2022. There's things like electric airplanes, reliable drone delivery, online universities, excuse me, online schools, robot assistants, kitchens restocking themselves, artificial intelligence. I got a presentation yesterday from a lady that she wants to know if I would finance a 3D printer that will order whatever kind of food I want. A 3D printer that sits in your house or kitchen and it makes your food for you. Go figure that out, printing food. So there's so much, nothing is impossible. The list goes on and on. We have a society now, if you think it, it can be created. So I want you to get your mindset going that way. There's going to be a complete change of how government works. There's going to be mail-in voting. It's going to become common. The last $2 trillion loan package was the largest ever approved, was written and voted on and approved by a Senate that didn't leave their houses. They all did it independently, never done before. But that's part of the complete change of the way everything's going to be done. The old business days, they were full of face-to-face meetings, major office towers full of people who were conducting all those meetings in every downtown area. Every month that had closing days for business transactions with offices full of lawyers, deal makers, and documents. The new business is now going to be executed by companies like DocuSign. Or there's a company called Notarize. It's a new company. It started 5 years ago. In 2019, Notarize, which I'm sure a lot of you haven't heard about, did $100 billion in business. People will not need to meet face-to-face with arbitrary deadlines now. Business will become smoother and better and easier for those of us who get on the wagon and get into the next decade. The future is going to be full of opportunity, just as it always has been, for the open minds and unbridled positivity. And the recessions create the environment for success and give us a chance to tool up and prepare for engaging again. Prices and costs become more realistic because of lack of demand. Landlords get more reasonable to deal with. The best people become available. In an up-go swinging economy, everybody's working. But now you're going to get some of the best people in the world to join you in your ideas. And money becomes available again for new ideas, new players. So that's part of the reason I'm so positive and so optimistic. Now, I'm talking a bit about our minds and how do we stay positive. What we take in and allow to come into ourselves, read and listen to, you got to be very careful what you put into your body and your brain. The brain's a muscle, just like the rest of our bodies. And if we feed our minds and our bodies healthy food, it will exercise, it'll be happy and healthy. But if we feed crap, it'll become crappy. Our minds will, and the world will look crappy to you. So you've got to have an intake. Like, for example, I turn the news on. I do the news in the morning for about a half an hour. I allow myself to have it for about a half an hour. And that's it. And I find now 15 minutes is about enough because I can hear what's going on, check it out, and I'm finished with it. And then read some of my papers. Years ago, I can't tell how many years ago, I read a small book. It was called The Man Who Tapped the Secrets of the Universe. And in it was a statement that changed my life. The book's about a man called Walter Russell. I'd like you to Google this up when you have time afterwards. But in that book, he said this: "Yes, I believe sincerely that everyone has consummate genius within them. Some appear to have it more than others, only because they're aware of it more than others are. And it's the awareness or unawareness of your genius which makes each one of them into masters or holds them down into mediocrity. And mediocrity is self-inflicted and genius is self-bestowed." Well, you know, I read that book and I thought it was oh my gosh, I'm a genius. I mean, here, Walter Russell, when you read about him, is crazy. He had 5 lives. He was a painter, a businessman, an architect, a sculptor, and he won an Olympic skating Olympics. So he had 5 lives going on. So I thought, well, you know, if he's smart enough to do all that, then I'll just take his word that I got to find my own genius. It's in me, but I got to figure it out. And every single one of you listening to me now are geniuses. I know a lot of you are on the line. There's a girl called Cheryl on the line. I knew when she was a business lady. Now she's a painter who makes a great living selling her paintings. She didn't know she had that. until she was middle-aged. So it's astounding how we can wake up our genius inside ourselves. And this is the kind of time and environment we can do that, because we got the time to think about things like this. Have faith in your genius. You have such a huge reservoir of untapped talent in you that you'll continue to amaze yourself if you press yourself and push yourself. And once you realize and accept that many others are going through or have gone through even more challenging hardships than you are, you can start feel gratitude for yourself and your position in life. You need to think more about what you have rather than focusing on what you don't have. We also don't know what we're capable of until we test ourselves. I'll tell you about a little disaster that I had when I stopped and relied upon my brain muscle, but I was learning how to fly a helicopter. I done all my training, I was soloing. So we stopped at the field, the instructor got out and said, okay, take it up. And he stood beside that, and I took the helicopter, and I said, okay, looked at him, turned the engine, I cranked it up and pulled it off the ground, went straight up in the air like a cork, and way too fast. And I didn't realize that I didn't have that 235 pounds of weight in the helicopter. He was a big man, my trainer. So it just popped up. Well, when I got up there about 100 feet in the air, it started swaying from side to side. So I grabbed the stick, and I was holding onto the stick as hard as I could and trying to stop it from going like this, from side to side like this. And so I pushed and pushed and pushed. It was going, and it was, I just couldn't hardly do it anymore. And I sort of stopped. And when you're in crisis, things slow right down. It was like a slow motion movie at all times in the world. I looked at it and I said, just let go. So I let go of the stick, and it started going back like this, like this, like this, like this, and it stopped right perfectly. And it righted itself. And that's what you need to do. You need to count on yourself that when you get into tough places, you'll be able to count on that wisdom you have inside yourself and that brain muscle to be there for you. You don't know what you're capable of accomplishing until you put yourself to the test. And don't be fearful, be confident. Say this to yourself, I can do this. It's easy, it's a piece of cake. And then take the first step. I remember when we first got computers, how daunting they are. Well, and I know nothing about computers. I can't do a thing about it. Well, now I'm Rita's computer guy. I'm my wife's computer guy. I know how to turn it on. Like what, 90% of the time, all I gotta do is turn it on and off. And I don't tell her that, of course. But you become familiar with things. Don't be scared of them. Grasp them, embrace challenges. Now today, I hope you're thinking of asking me these 3 questions. How do you take action in times of trouble? How do I overcome the challenges of today? And how do I overcome obstacles on my way to success? How could I answer those questions for you? Well, as I look back over my life, I noted that when I first served in the Army, I spent 7 years in the services, and I learned how to take commands. When a sergeant yelled, duck, you ducked. You didn't ask why. So I always have been that way. When somebody says something, I usually do it and think about it afterwards. Don't think about it initially. So that's my Army lesson. Now, once out of the service, I got into business. There wasn't like commands, but there was rules they had to follow. If you want to be a successful businessman, you got to follow these rules. There was these rules. So I took a lot of those rules. But then as I got older, probably past about 50, 60, these rules and commands became kind of guidelines, which I use, which sort of guide me towards the life I want to use. And I'm going to share some of those guidelines with you today. For example, one is, how do I start my day every single day? Well, let me just tell you. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I go to bed at 9 o'clock at night. Pretty simple. I awaken up at 5 o'clock and I set my intention for the day by picking a word. Like today's word, for example, is happiness. That's my word today. Yesterday was gratitude. You can use love, but when you set that word and you think of some great words that really motivate you, that's your intention for that one day. So when I think happiness today, I think about everything's happy. And you solve problems by that because you have a happy attitude towards it. So set your intention. Next thing to do, this is all about 5 o'clock, 5:15. I check my emails, anything important I should look at. And then I sort of think about what creative project am I going to work on today? And this webinar came from that kind of thinking. I saw Andrea Bocelli singing live there out of Milan for us. If you all saw it the other night, it was unbelievable. Dial it up. Well, I thought, I can't sing like Andrea Bocelli, but darn it all, I'm a positive guy, and I can sing a positive message. So that's what I'm going to do. And so when Jordan, asked me if I would do this, it just fit, So what can you do today? Think about something creative you can do. Learn to play the piano, write a book. There's so many things you can do. Learn how to play a guitar, to use this time on something creative. It's important to get your brain thinking of something creative, okay? Now, then what I do is I got David, my tech guy, who's listening away here. He's unbelievable, but he set me up a music system in the house here, so I turn my music on. And I get that morning with music going on to make me sort of feel like I love Nora Jones, Diana Krall, and they just get your day in the mood right. This is early yet. It's still only 5:15, 5:20, you know, it's still early. And I do this stuff, and I take my cappuccino, my Wall Street Journal, and my news intake all before 6:30. 6:30, Reed and I get up and we head for our hike, or we exercise in the house. Most of the time here, it's so beautiful here in Phoenix that we hike. And so we're on the mountain every single day, and you know, you meet happy people on the mountain. My word is happiness. So it's a wonderful time. Now, before you start your day, stay in your creative mood and think intentionally strategic. So we all got our priorities. Well, go through those priorities and prioritize them. Ask yourself, am I eating the frog today? You know, the frog is the difficult thing you keep putting away. They say you eat your frog first thing in the morning. So what frogs are out there that you're going to say, I'm going to eat that one today? And it's gone. Deal with it, okay? Be conscious of your return of effort. And then what I like to do is I take a thought about my life like for the year, just from now to the year. What things would I like to do? Do I want to go to Disneyland with the family? Do I want to take a trip to Italy? You know, the big kind of things that keep you happy and motivated. And how is that in order? What does life look like for this next 1 year? What things do I want to do today? Well, I want to be an example for my peers. I want to be a good mentor. I want to strengthen and maintain and secure my family's security. And I want to have fun. That's critically important, is having fun every day. So that's how I start my day. It's now sort of 6:30, I'm ready to go. So now what happens, 2 rules, really commands I've set for myself, is what happens in times of, you know, struggles that we got right now is we freeze. And I call it the deer in the headlights. You know, like the deer, you know, the car's coming down the road, the deer sees the car and just freezes, and the car runs over the deer because he just stands there waiting for the car to hit him. A lot of us get like that, me included, when you see trouble ahead, you're not too sure what to do. Well, you've got to unfreeze. So watch out for that deer in the headlights, and don't run into the train. Like, do what you need to do. And the next lesson is stop the bleeding. And the first lesson in first aid, if you see a body or somebody laying on the street, you check them out for first aid. Are they bleeding? And stop that bleeding. Well, businesses and families, if you're hemorrhaging blood, stop the bleeding. You know, the last time I did stop the bleeding exercise on me and the organization, I was paying 9 serious radio bills. 9 different Sirius radio accounts. So how can I be paying 9 different accounts? Well, I bought a car, sold a car, hooked it up with Sirius, sold it. And Sirius didn't phone me and tell me that I had 9 accounts, but I figured that I had them. So you don't know how much, that's where you can save money. Get into your own banks and what can you do to change, and really audit yourself and see this is a time for that. You know, I go back to, I almost went broke once. And I thought I was going to go broke, and I thought I was going to lose everything. And I felt pretty bad. And my net worth went from 150 million plus to 75 million minus, like sort of in a couple of days. And I remember I was devastated, just devastated. And I asked my wife, I came on and said, honey, you know, if I went broke, would you still love me? And because I thought I might lose her. And I said, would you still love me if I was broke? And I'll never forget her answer. She said, Peter, I'll always love you. I'll miss you, but I will always love you. And then she sat me down and told me really what I had left. Things like my health, my family, my place in the community, my faith, my kids. The only thing I was losing was my money. And I could always make that back again because I had none when I started anyway, and a lot of education. So that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to just, it is what it is, and accept things and then get on with it. Now, and then I worked on my new deals. When I went through all my bad stuff, that's when the good stuff came on. That's when, like the Four Seasons Hotel, I ran the New York Marathon in that I had a 5-year window of disaster. And in that 5-year window, I did do the Four Seasons deal. I did the New York Marathon. I wrote a book. I learned how to fly a helicopter. The name of the book, the name of that book was called Never Fight with a Pig, because you get dirty, you can't win, and the pig likes it. And it was a lesson in what we were going through. But we're going to be changed forever through this coronavirus. We're going to be just changed forever because we're going through a virus pandemic and an economic pandemic. So we're going to be different coming out the other side. It's up to each of us to make that change for the better. Now, there's several guidelines over my 50 years in business that I'm going to share with you in different orders of importance. But the first and most important thing to me has always been is your values. Do you understand what your values are? And if you don't, take out a piece of paper right now and tonight sit down with your kids, with your family, by yourself, with your partner, and write down what your values are. Like my values are health, freedom, happiness, and integrity. So everything I do, I make sure that I'm aligned with those values. Will it hurt my health? Will it hurt my freedom, my happiness, and my integrity? So you live your life in alignment with your values. So understand that. And when you get your values written out on that piece of paper, sit down and think in the last couple of weeks what you've done towards realizing those values. Like if health is a value, what have you done towards your health? Did you work out? Do you eat properly? And you realize, my gosh, you can get so misaligned, and no wonder you get cranky and get stressful and all that, because you're really not, you got these things you believe in, but you're not living your life in alignment with them. Well, now's a good time to get aligned. Next thing, maintain a positive mental attitude. You alone choose your attitude. It reminds me of a Bette Midler story. And they asked Bette on a TV show one day, he said, Bette, how do you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? She didn't hesitate for a second. She said, 15. So how do you rate yourself? Because you got to rate yourself 15. I hope I heard everybody yell 15. Another thing is, if you feel a little blue and you're feeling down, use the power of reflection. Think back to the successes you had. It was when you got married, when you had your first child, when you were graduating, your second child, your third child. Make a list of those magic moments in your life. When you won the football game, when you won a track meet. We've all had these wins, but we never think about them. They make you smile, they make you feel good, and they get you drawing back on your strength again. And then there's some things we're good at, some things we're not so good at. We'll make a list of things you excel at. I always like, it's the cards that God hands us. He never gives us 4 aces, 4 kings, 4 jacks. You've got a mixed deck like everybody else does. You got to play with the cards you've got. But if you're like for example, a real mathematician, you got that math ace, well then work on things that are mathematical. Use the strengths that God gave you that you have. And we all have those strengths. So try and make a list of them and get yourself aligned with that. Nothing about worry. Don't worry. It's a useless effort. 50% of things you worry about don't happen. The other 45% you couldn't change anyway. So there's a better use of your time. A quick story, I call it get back up on the beam. My granddaughter, excuse me for a second. My granddaughter, Shay, is a gymnast. She was doing a first gymnastic meet in a small area in Canada and British Columbia. And there was about five or six teams were competing together. She was on the one team. She was fantastic on the beam. So we're all there to watch her, the whole family, about 9 of us in there to watch her and cheer her. And when the competition started, she was up first. They called her name. I thought, oh my gosh. And what does she do first is the beam. She gets up on the beam in front of all these people, does a pirouette on the beam, and falls off the beam. Right there in the competition. She was laying on the beam on the ground beside it. And I don't know, she was kind of grimacing, and the coach looked at her kind of angry. And, Shay looked at the coach, and something transpired, and she turned around, got up, and she climbed back on that beam again. And she finished that routine. And she went on, my heart's beating, excuse me, but she went on to win 5 gold medals. She was only lost 1 medal, 1 point for falling off the beam, and somebody else had did something else. So there she was. So I call it getting back up on the beam. If you get knocked off the beam, and we all get knocked off, get back up again, get back up on that beam again. How you can do that is surround yourself with successful, positive people. Look around the room. If you're the smartest person in the room, you're probably in the wrong room. Be around smart people. It just makes you smarter. Also, if you're around negative people, they're dangerous. They're toxic, and they can affect your brain. If they keep shooting you down every time you come up with an idea, you don't want them around you because they can affect you and bother you. You got to feed the brain the right information. We're going so fast here, but I got so much I want to tell you. There's a thing I call virtual mentorship. When I was getting started, I didn't know anybody. It was very good, and I don't have university. So I had to figure out how to get the stuff figured out. I thought, well, I need some smart people in my life, but I don't know anybody. Well, there was a book. I read a book about Karsh. He was a photographer, and he had these phenomenal pictures, and all these major people. And I looked through the book. I thought, my gosh, these people could be my mentors. There was President Kennedy, Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and Ernest Hemingway. And I took those pictures, put them up on my wall, and said, those are going to be my mentors. And I read everything I could about them. And if I had trouble, something come up, I'd say, well, what would Martin Luther King do? What would Mahatma Gandhi do? So that's virtual mentorship. So you pick the mentor that you want, that you believe would help you, and learn everything you can about them, and let that person be your mentor. Oh boy. the other thing is you don't believe everything you hear. You always hear about, people who win this and win that. You never hear about all those people who losses. And I always remember there was an old baseball player. His name was Babe Ruth. Some of you may remember him, may not. But he was the home run king of the world. And I always, when I was a kid, I thought, wow, that Babe Ruth, nobody will ever beat his record. How could he ever do that? And I read an article about him. I learned that he also was the strikeout king of the world. He struck out more times at bat than anybody else in history ever did. So, but all we ever heard was a home run king. So you can rest assured that anybody with a bunch of wins has got a whole bunch of losses. So just because you're losing today or losing right now doesn't mean that you're a loser. Another, oh boy, quick one, but habits. We have these habits, and now's the time to change them. There's a story about how you train elephants. And if I ask anybody here seen an elephant? You all put up your hands. Did you see it in Thailand? Yep, probably in Thailand. Well, I went and saw that elephant, and there was a little baby elephant with a chain around his leg. And I talked to the trainer, and the trainer said, yes, that's how we train them. We put a chain around the elephant's leg, and we leave him chained to this post. We drive the post in the ground. And then, when the mother elephant moves away, the elephant pulls and pulls. And of course, he chafes his leg, and he learns that he can't get away from that chain. They do that for 2 or 3 months. Then they turn around, they take a stake out of the ground, and they put the chain around, and leave the chain around the elephant's ankle, and the elephant sits there. Well, eventually they take the chain and the fastener from the ankle and just lay it with the chain, and they lead the elephant around, put the chain down, and the elephant stops by the chain and doesn't remove itself. He sits beside the chain. He's been so trained that he hurts himself if he moves away from it, that his habit is not to pull against don't push against that, because he can't do it. And we ourselves, all of us, have these crazy chains around us, So we've got to be so careful that we don't do that with our habits. Check our habits. Be real. People appreciate transparency. Be authentic and be calm. Use the power of visualization. Stephen Covey said, begin with the end in mind. Express gratitude whenever you get the opportunity. Have an attitude of gratitude. There's a disease I call FUD. Watch out for FUD. It's fear, uncertainty, and doubt. We all have those fears. We're all uncertain. We all have doubts. So get over that and avoid those diseases. I have a coach. My coach, his name is Tony Jerry. Tony's just amazing. He wrote a book called Strategic Acceleration, and it changed my entire method of thinking and planning. Tony's coached some of the world's top CEOs, Walmart, Ford, Shell, to Texaco, New York, Life. And I was just so blessed and fortunate to have Tony come into my life years ago and be my coach, because I sure needed it. And at 81 years old, I still need a coach. And Tony's gift to me and the world is a formula called clarity, focus, and execution. And I tell you, Tony's book, Strategic Acceleration, it just so changed my life. If any of you want a copy of this book, just, you know how to get a hold of me. Get a hold of me, and we'll get you a copy of it, because it's a book that's powerful and life-changing, because it's a simple formula, and once you get that formula, it's amazing.
Peter, you are life-changing. You are life-changing. And this half an hour with you, I mean, the comments that I'm getting, usually I get these questions about this, that, and the other. Every comment is a private email to me saying, I love this guy. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank Peter for doing this. This is just totally amazing. So I hope you'll come back again. You've talked to us about adapt, plan B, set your intentions. And I will tell you, I set my intention today, and it was gratitude. And I'm so grateful for you. And I know everyone is. Audit yourself, be around smart people, positive people, find a virtual mentor. And lucky for me, I have a real mentor, and that's Peter Thomas. And I feel so grateful for you.
Well, Jordan,
I hope you'll come back, Peter.
Jordan, one last thing is I want to close with a story, but I couldn't finish this webinar without saying thank you to Rita, my wife. I know a lot of you know her, but Rita's my inspiration, my happiness, my everything. And this webinar would not have happened without her support, her inspiration, and her guidance. So you guys, I love you all, and thank you so much for this opportunity. Jordan, thank you for making this happen.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Rita. And we hope you'll come back. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day, and let's go make good things happen.
Okay. Well, Roger, over and out.